Hey, you are exactly right. And that is bigger than I ever expected. I always heard, if you have a book, more people want to talk to you and interview you. And I believed it, but not to the level it has become true. Now, I already had an education world, my lifestyle dash REI. That was already existed before I wrote the book. But I really wrote the book to get to more people, more education to them. And if they like it, they would come to the site. So there's two pieces of that. Is I was writing the book and I had to have a really good end product for education for people to say, all right, I want more than this book. I want video courses and stuff. So I kind of put a deadline for myself to have those courses made. But once I became a best-selling author, it is just wild to me the doors it has opened. That everyone like, oh, you're a best-selling author. Okay, yeah, I would love for you to come speak. Or meetings are like, we're featuring authors this year at our meetings, and we only want authors there to speak. But, okay, so I wouldn't have gotten those, and it's just been a really cool thing. Being an author was on my things to do before I died that I never thought I would do. So I had like this list of things I like to prove people wrong, and writing a book is not something I thought I would do, and I'm sure most of my teachers would never say I would write a book. So I was like, all right, I want to write a book then. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
And welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have a friend that's been on another podcast with me, and now he's back. So I get to talk to him again, which makes me happy. Adrian's here. We're going to be talking about his book. He's created a little website thing, addition to his website, just for you as listeners to Living the Next Chapter, which I don't know if anybody, I got to tell you, Adrian, with 300 episodes, I don't think anybody's ever done this for our audience before. You're the first. So thank you for doing this. But if you're interested in all kinds of mobile home investing tips and getting some myth debunked about all this, Adrian is an expert who's going to help you with this topic. And I love everything about Adrian. I love how he presents in the world. He's a super kind, nice guy. And you're going to learn a lot today. Adrian, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
David, thank you for having me. I feel like we've known each other so much longer than we really have from our conversations. They're always great.
Right? I know. I really enjoy talking to you, Adrian. Anytime I have a chance to have you on my screen, it's a good day, and we're starting our day together with this, and I'm excited to get into the conversation. First of all, tell everybody where you are in this big world of ours, Adrian.
Well, I am based by my address, out of Central Florida, Plant City, Florida. And I say it that way because I really travel a lot now. While we're recording this, I'm in Maine, and I just kind of move around, maybe a new age nomad, you could call me. And my wife is a travel RN, so we've kind of made home bases depending on where we go with her. We're going to go to Colorado probably next. My business, though, is based out of Central Florida. That's the place that's been home my whole life. So I'm a Florida native. There's not a lot of those. Everyone just migrates to Florida. But I love traveling. I love visiting the world.
So, okay, how big is Plant City?
Plant City is about 45,000 people, I believe it is right now.
Okay.
So it's, that's small for Florida. I've got friends around the country and world that are like, well, that's a big town. I'm like, not in Florida.
Good. And okay, so talk a little bit of what you do. Tell us about the website, but also a little bit about what you do and maybe how this all started for you.
Well, I started as a real estate investor 20 some years ago because I was an evicted tenant. I was evicted for parties, like spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling parties.
Spaghetti wrestling parties?
Oh, yeah. Pudding wrestling. Parking a motorcycle in the living room. I mean, you don't rent to 20-year-old Adrian and his friends. It was fun. We were irresponsible, but that led me to buy a house because I don't know, I wanted control. I had a family member that said, with a mortgage broker, he said, why don't you buy a place? So I did. Then I got to learn why we were bad tenants because I became the landlord. Right. But that started me on my journey because I was living for free in that house because I rented out my rooms, the other rooms, to my friends and divide my mortgage up amongst them, which as 20 years old is really cool, living for free and not being with mom and dad. And that was still local to my parents, like 20 minutes away. Fast forward a little bit, I bought another house, listening to the banks. They said, don't worry, you can buy another house. You're going to lose a little bit every month this time, but real estate goes straight up. You'll refinance in a few years. Well, a few years was the last crash that we all know about. Market was going down, so I couldn't refinance. I had one of the adjustable rate mortgages that was written all about in the newspapers. So my payment went from losing a little bit to a little bit more every month. And I finally gave the house up as a short sale. Think to my credit, my ego, my integrity. And I'll just keep fast forwarding a few more years. I bought some more houses. But then that short sale came back. And it was like in the back of my mind, I didn't want to be wrong again in the market.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to what today's business is mobile homes. I was searching for something different, something that was going to produce a better cash flow, which is a safer investment. So I buy single unit mobile homes with the land. It's a home and land together. It's not the mobile home park, and it's not the unit within the park. So for whatever reason, this is like a hidden niche within the real estate world. And I transferred all my business to that. And that's what I do. I buy and rent mobile homes with the land and start teaching a little bit locally. I have a louder personality, and a lot of mobile home investors don't. So I just tell everyone what I do, which led me to teaching, which led me to the book, which is why I'm here today talking about books.
I love this. Now, so you buy the mobile home and the land.
Yes.
So if something ever happens to the mobile home, like it had to be replaced or something or whatever, you still own the property underneath the mobile home.
Exactly. Right? So in Florida, we have these things called hurricanes, which a lot of the world doesn't think about. And hurricanes turn mobile homes sometimes into hurricane missiles, and it rips it off. So just like you said, we at least still own some dirt with the home there. So we can always move a new one on there or sell it or sometimes build a house on it. So there's more exit strategies, which really just helps me sleep better at night.
Okay. So how many mobile homes would you have at any given time?
We take care of about 30. We have some that are long-term leases with the owners because the owners really didn't want to sell. It wasn't the best option for them. So I always like to do my best to solve the seller's problems, not just say, here's what I can pay for it. And sometimes it's not selling it at all. It's really to rent it to me with the right to sublet it out. So there's different solutions. I'm a problem solver is really what I am.
So with the exception of a hurricane, what is the typical lifespan of a regular mobile home?
If you take care of it, they can keep going. I mean, our oldest one is a 1960s. I know people that still have 1950s and older. Now, you have taillights on those. Like, they came with taillights, and a lot of people didn't get rid of them because, remember, they were mobile back then. Nowadays, they're not really mobile. But you got to take care of it. That's the key to it. People think, that's a big myth right there, that people think, oh, they depreciate down to nothing and they fall apart. No, if you take care of it, there's still value there.
Yeah. No spaghetti wrestling.
No spaghetti wrestling. I do not recommend that inside of a mobile home. Inside of any home, really.
Is there a chapter in your book about spaghetti wrestling at all?
I talk a little bit about that. I mean, my book is really a journey from me starting out as that evicted tenant all the way through allowing my wife, enabling, I don't like the word allowing, enabling my wife to retire at 29. So it was that story, and within it, I teach about mobile homes all the way through it. And I sought out to actually write a book about investing in mobile homes. And when I was done with it, people said, well, this is an inspirational story. And I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't even write it in that filter. It's just how it came out, which is really cool because now I like that. I like to inspire people, but that wasn't the actual purpose. So now there's really two different lenses people read the book in. Some people that never even want to invest in mobile homes read it just through the inspiration side of what I did.
So the interesting thing about what you've done is I talk to a lot of authors who write books and they don't know what to do with the book. They don't have a plan after the book is written. You're like the opposite, where the book is there to support your business, to get you on stage, get you on podcasts, it's like a way to get your foot in the door and speak to people. So talk a little bit about the fact that you get to get on stages now and travel and talk to groups of people about this because of what you've done with the business, but also the book is there to support that. Talk about the connection of the book and what you do in your business.
And you are exactly right. And that is bigger than I ever expected. I always heard, if you have a book, more people want to talk to you and interview you. And I believed it, but not to the level it has become true. Now, I already had an education world, my lifestyle dash REI. That was already existed before I wrote the book. But I really wrote the book to get to more people, more education to them. And if they like it, they would come to the site. So there's two pieces of that. Is I was writing the book and I had to have a really good end product for education for people to say, all right, I want more than this book. I want video courses and stuff. So I kind of put a deadline for myself to have those courses made. But once I became a best-selling author, it is just wild to me the doors it has opened. That everyone like, oh, you're a best-selling author. Okay, yeah, I would love for you to come speak. Or meetings are like, we're featuring authors this year at our meetings, and we only want authors there to speak. Like, okay, so I wouldn't have gotten those, and it's just been a really cool thing. Being an author was on my things to do before I die that I never thought I would do. So I have like this list of things I like to prove people wrong, and writing a book is not something I thought I would do, and I'm sure most of my teachers would never say I would write a book. So I was like, all right, I want to write a book then.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
Okay, so when we buy the book, what are we gonna learn? What are we gonna find? I opened it for the first time. Kind of talk us through a little bit of what's inside the book.
It goes through my story, like I said, from that evicted tenant. And within it, I just keep teaching little pieces of marketing, of buying the mobile home, what to look for, repairs. I have a lot of data. It's a little data heavy. I mean, even for like me, and I'm in the industry, because people want to see some actual data, but there's stories. Most of it is stories, and it's very conversational, even though it's like, you're just reading it, but I wrote it the exact same way I talk. Any other way, that was actually, I think, what was so scary about writing a book is I thought it had to be in this certain like wording style. And I did hire a coach for it. When he said, no, it's okay to have it just in your style, I was like, oh, this is much easier then. So I just wrote it the same way I talk. And I've had many people say, it sounds like when I'm reading it, sounds like you are speaking to me. And I'm like, good, because I don't know how to write any other way.
And there's an audio version now, you said as well, right?
Yes. So I recorded the audio, I think it was about 10, 11 months into having the book. I would say the marketing side of that was, okay, we'll do a relaunch a year later for the audiobook. And so I hired a studio for it, not a super high end. It cost me a few $1,000s. So it wasn't, I'll say, anything crazy, but I knew I wanted to get on Audible because that's the big player. If you're there, they do most of the marketing for you. So I'm on, with my paperback, I'm on basically every platform, but I think it's like 99% of my books get sold through Amazon. So I knew the same thing's going to happen to Audible. Well, Audible has like the highest criteria for Audible. And I started reading on it. It had to be certain frequencies, and there can only be so much pause between words. And I was like, that's going to be a whole new thing to learn for me to get that right. So that's why I hired the studio. I spent about 7 hours in a 5-foot by 5-foot padded room alone reading a 140-page book.
And no spaghetti.
Oh, no spaghetti. It was not joking. It was the hardest speaking engagement I've ever had. Because I had to be alone. Like here, I get to see your smile, and that perks me up a little bit.
Yeah.
There was me and a microphone. And I mean, people can hear the smile coming across. Yes. So a little trick I did that someone gave me like the night before, I printed a bunch of silly pictures of some of my friends, and I put it right behind the microphone. So I would see that and like, okay, it helped remind me to smile. but I probably read that book 3 or 4 times in that time period.
Wow.
That 7 hours ended up being 2 hours and 34 minutes of recorded finished product.
Wow.
And one of the reasons the cost was a little bit more than I expected, because they had to edit so much more, because I had to keep rereading lines. And so something I learned, so I'll back up a little more. All through school, I was in remedial classes. And that's one reason writing a book was something that I never thought I would do. Well, while I was writing the book, I found out I'm dyslexic. One of my inspiration things I always tell people, if a dyslexic guy can write a book, dyslexic guy can buy mobile homes, so can you. I'm not that special. I just put a lot of effort into it. And when I wrote the book, the final, I did not edit out all the grammar to be absolutely perfect, because part of my vision with my education brand is to make it okay to have a learning disability. I used to be so scared if the grammar wasn't right, because I wasn't good at it. And I'm not great now. Spell check and predictive text are great.
Yeah.
They saved me. And then friends texting me, hey, your social media post doesn't make sense. You should change this word to word. So, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be okay. It's readable, but if you're, someone that's just the grammar police, you might get annoyed by my book, to be honest. But it was important to me to make it okay, to not be perfect. Well, then when I went to go read the book, there's some grammar errors, and I'm already switch up some words and have a little trouble reading. That's one reason it was so draining, because you got to read it, just perfect. It has to be, I think, like 99% close for accurate for Amazon to, I don't know, one of their products. They want it to be almost perfect to the paperback or the digital version. So man, it was difficult.
Well, good. Well, I think when you talk about talking to a microphone and being by yourself, that's podcasting. So for a lot of the podcasters that listen to this podcast as well, and for me as a podcaster, I talk to the wall all the time. And I love your idea of just having little pictures and stuff. That helps just to kind of not feel so alone in the moment. And for anybody that's thinking about doing an audiobook, that's a great tip. Any other things that you thought about, like during or after, that you're like, oh yeah, if you're going to record an audiobook, make sure you also try this as well? Anything else?
Yeah, I finally understood why so many audiobooks have a lot of bonus chapters in it, because Audible sets the price. You don't get any say of the price. Amazon does that too.
Okay.
So Amazon, they get to do what they want. If we want to be on their platform. So let's go to Amazon first. My paperback version, I believe I have it for $1 or $2 more than they're charging. Well, Amazon pays me based on my price that I say it's for sale for, and they have it marked down. So right now it's great for me, because I get paid based on my price, and then the customer gets to have it at a discount. So for me, that's great, both worlds. Great. When it comes to the audiobook, it's a little different. They set the price. They don't care what you say. And a lot of it is based on time. So I didn't do any research on that ahead of time. Well, if you get over the 3-hour-ish mark, they don't give you exact numbers, because they know people are going to game the system. So it's a general about 3 hours. It bumps you to the next price range. So I just got finished recording some bonuses to re-release my book, because I wanted it over the $9.99 range, the $9.99. Partially for perceived value. It's worth way more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I sell it on my website for $9.99, so I didn't want to look like a jerk. Come buy it from me for more than Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did re-record some bonus chapters. I learned that people want to know more about fix and flipping and some other things within the mobile home space. So I recorded little pieces of that, added as bonus chapters, some more mindset that people really liked, and I was excited. I'm like, all right, I'll easily record that. And so it's all been uploaded. Amazon will take about 30 days to say you're approved, or nope, this one little track, you have too many spaces and you're too many pauses between words. We
Okay.
reject it.
Yeah.
And so I'm in that waiting period at this moment. And then hopefully the price will go up because we pay more attention to something we pay a little bit more to.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's
I'm
great.
excited about it.
So those are great tips, Adrian. Those are excellent tips. So, okay, talk us through what's the name of the book, first of all. I don't know if we've mentioned the name of the book. Have we done that?
I kept it very complex. How to buy mobile
Okay.
homes.
Okay. Can you explain that title, please? That's really hard to understand.
Yeah, now the subtitle,
Yeah.
The Authorized Guide to Capitalizing on a Hidden Niche in Real Estate Investing.
Good.
That's a little long, I thought. And I mean, this is so like I said, I hired a coach, and I'm very happy. I already understood coaching before I hired him, so I was like, all right, you tell me what it is, I'm going to trust you. You know, that's a lot of our problems when we don't utilize coaches well is we don't trust the coach. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, that is a long subtitle. And he explained to me why it's okay in certain circumstances, and we went back and forth, and we went through every word of this subtitle of should it be there. Remember, I said hidden niche. Well, I kept
Yeah.
repeating that to him when we talked about it. He's like, all right, well, that needs to be in there then. And then there's some SEO for why some of these words are in the subtitle as well. But the how to buy mobile homes, I mean, that tells you exactly what the book is.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we want. There's another, I know some people go with, they want a little more risque, like, oh, what is that? Like, you know, make you question and think and open it and look at it. But this was a how-to book. So how to buy mobile homes. So it's easy.
So what I love whenever I see an author hold up their book is the pride that's on your face that this is your book, this is your baby, and it's actually a reality and you're holding it. Go back in time for me when the book finally arrived in a box to you for the first time. You open the box, you've never seen it in person. You pull out and you hold it for the first time. Take us back to that moment. You could tell me the day, the month, you could tell me where you were, everything about that day. Can you explain what that feels like for an author that's writing right now that thinks it's going to be forever until they finally hold their book for the first time? Can you tell us what it felt like to touch your book for the first time?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I opened it right in the post office. You know, I didn't wait to get home or in the car, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, it still had the line on it. It was the, you know, do not sell, you know, it was the author's copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something I've never noticed the feeling of books so much, but I noticed it on mine. I was like, oh, this feels awesome. Yeah. You know, it's just that soft mat. And I know I'd held books like that before and didn't think that, but I think I never fully thought of that until you asked this. It's probably because it's my book.
Yeah.
You know, I look through and I'm looking at all these little things I did, you know, on it. I'm like, oh yeah, that does look really good. Oh, well, that came out just as good as I saw it on the screen, but there's a difference in screen and physically having it. And yeah, it became real then. I was like, this is the real thing.
It's exciting. I think we lose sight of what it's going to be like to get to the finish line. We're so busy running the race of writing our book that the finish line seems like you can't even see it in the distance. And here you are, you're like, it's a reality. You stick with it, do your best, work through all your struggles, put your best work out in the world, and it'll happen. So I just want to inspire authors to keep moving forward on their journey of writing.
And I add to that, now that you're saying it that way, that, yeah, I had a coach and it was a program, you know, it was a year, and, you know, like we'll coach you through to be a best-selling author and teach you all this. And so that took some pressure of what you're saying off. I said, all right, what do I need to do between now and the next call?
Yeah.
And I focus on those small steps. So obviously everyone doesn't need to have a coach and everything. I wanted to fast track it. I would just say, all right, you have this big timeline of all these things to do. Just chunk it down into small little steps and forget about this stuff that's further out there that, yeah, you're right. It's super overwhelming. If I did it every once in a while, get caught up on this next big thing. I was like, nope. All I need to do is this next little step. And that helped it grow much faster and not be so overwhelming.
I like it. Okay. So can we get like a little glimpse into the book? Can you give us an idea or a tip for somebody that's actively wants to do what you're doing. They want to learn from you, Adrian. They want to be part of your world and maybe get your kind of coaching. They want your book. But can you give us something from the book that kind of helps somebody in the idea of doing something along the idea of investing in mobile homes? What is a tip that we could share without giving away the book?
I would say start getting educated. I mean, obviously, I think that, but that's how I did it. I got educated. I mean, if you read the book and then just go and take action, that's a lot of it. Take action on some of it. What is like something to actually, if you're scared of older mobile homes, so if you're watching this, the mobile home behind me, it was just also part of my cover of the book. Don't go with those. Then start out with something a little bit newer and nicer. So go and just walk a mobile home. Set an appointment with a realtor. I buy off market most of the time, but just go set an appointment and go look at one and realize these aren't that scary. They're not that different than a house. Now, yes, there's some technical things when you get older. The walls are thinner. The roofs are not as efficient. And there's different types of roofs. There's 3 different types of roofs on it. But start with something simpler so you can get some momentum going within it. And, the biggest date within the mobile home world is June 15th, 1976. That is a date that the U.S. federal government, so most mobile homes, by the way, are in the U.S. They're really not much outside of it. And so that year and date is the date that the federal government did something good. And they intervened and said, you know what, we're going to have a standard of what these are made out of. Pre-June 15th, 1976, they're kind of made out of toothpicks. There was kind of the wild, wild west to how they made them. From that date on, they're made with better quality. Really, the 80s is when it became a little bit better. If you buy a new one today, they can withstand, they have some models that can withstand 165 mile per hour winds for a hurricane.
Wow.
So they don't have to be that scary. People are really scared of mobile homes. So find the year, is what I would say, that fits your comfort level. I wasn't always comfortable with this 1960s behind me that came with most of its siding. I was scared of it, honestly, when I went and looked at it. As I got educated, I got to where I could buy older and older ones that are more profitable. But it's just the education and our ease on it, is I think is a lot of it. That date is a very important date. June 15th, 1976. No bank's going to finance before then. Really, banks, the 80s is kind of where they get a little more comfortable. When I say banks, I mean the community banks and the credit unions. But I usually talk more about private money, friends and family. Those are a little easier to finance mobile homes.
Okay, let's jump back to the beginning where you talked about owning not just the mobile home, but owning the land. Do a comparison for us, because I see more commonly where I live here in Niagara and Ontario, Canada, that we have mobile home parks, but they're kind of like just like camper trailers, travel trailers parked on somebody else's land where you rent a space and park your trailer, and then people make gardens and build decks and make a little home out of it. But you don't own the land. And what happened in one of our parks close to us is they sold the property to another group, and then they kicked everybody out. So you had to get all your setup, take it apart, and move. And some of these places were gorgeous. They had beautiful decks and barbecue pits and all these gorgeous things set up, and you don't own the land at all. So what are your thoughts for both? What's better? What's your opinion? I'm thinking you're leaning towards owning your own piece of land, but what are some of the advantages, disadvantages of having your trailer on somebody else's property?
Excellent question. So I have bought for investment purposes the unit within the park. So some downfalls are exactly what you said. You don't control the land, so you don't get to make rules. They get to say, so what happened to me at one time is on April 5th, they said, by the end of the month, you can't own anything in here that you don't live in. Oh, and I had 2. Now, luckily that story ends well because I sold them for a profit because I bought them right. I rented them for the time. But what if I had a bunch in there? Like maybe I would have to fight them back, but I lost control. lot rent, that's like a mortgage that never goes away, and it's probably going to go up every year. Plan on it going up every year. And what you're
Right.
talking about as someone, the owner sells it, and a company usually comes in and changes it. That has been getting a lot of media, and not always great media, in the last few years. What really happened that I've seen is a lot of these parks were mom and pop parks by the
Yep.
baby boomer era. They
Yep.
started it,
Yep.
they had it their whole time, and now they're retired and they're like, I don't want this anymore. Or they pass away and their kids are like, I don't want that thing. And they were running well for what they were, but they weren't fully maximized. So now companies came in or professional investors and said, we can bring this up to market and make a lot more money with it. Now, yes, they're making more money with it. Sometimes they're also making them safer and bringing them up to code, because you'd be surprised what I've seen
Yep.
in some of these parks of illegal and nastiness. So there's some pros and cons. Sometimes it's more of a tax issue that if it's sold, the property taxes go up to a new amount or a best use that they can't even make money as a mobile home park, because municipalities want tall buildings, because tall buildings
Yep.
pay a lot more taxes than an old trailer
Right.
park.
Yep.
Now let's talk about somebody that's going to live in it, though. So if you live in it, I used to think it's crazy. Why would I ever have that lot rent? It never goes away. Well, you get some benefits if it's the right park, because they are probably taking care of all the lawn maintenance. Water could be included. Sometimes trash is included. Sometimes electric's included. You got to ask all these things.
Yeah.
And then really you're buying a community. That's the one I think is worth the most amount of money. And I was talking to a lady once. She's like, she was paying $850 a month for lot rent. And I was like, that is a lot in my area, I thought. She's like, yeah, but on Tuesdays, I go over to Julie's for margaritas. Wednesdays, I play cards. Thursdays, bridge. And she started telling me, I'm like, she bought a community. She was a widow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's worth as much money as you can pay for. I mean, really, like, why live, we'll say, cheaper? And if you don't have any friends and you don't do anything and enjoy life, that's what she was buying. I was like, it finally made sense for the right person that they're buying a community that they get to live in. Moving them, it's not very economical. They're not very mobile anymore. So you have to kind of weigh out those pros and cons of it.
Okay. I love it. So you said the book is available everywhere, which is awesome. Tell us about your website as well, Adrian.
So my website, lifestyle-rei.com, is where I have my education. I have a blog on there. I have different courses on investing in mobile homes. And by the way, my main course, the Cash In and Mobile Homes, it's split up in two parts, but the part that I teach about the renting, the mind map for that is very similar to the mind map I made for the book. I gave away, some people tell me, too much in my book of information. I should have used it more as a funnel to get people. But I wrote it through the filter of giving back education, then a funnel to my website, and then making money, if that was in there, because being an author doesn't make you a lot of money on books. If you're looking to make money, it's fall in love with me because you like my book and then want more. The website it's got all that information on there. I will go ahead and give it now for the people that want the free PDF, the debunking even more myths than we talked about. It's going to be the lifestyle-rei.com/next chapter. And so yeah, it's a passion business for me, the education, the lifestyle REI.
It's amazing, Adrian. And I could talk to you all day, and I know you got a whole day full of podcast episodes to record with other people. I'm happy that I got to get you near the beginning of the day. So I feel like I snuck in and swooped in and got a good spot with you today. I'm looking forward, Adrian, to seeing how this develops, and would love to get in touch with you again in the future, get an update on how the book is doing, how the audiobook is doing, and, just to get in touch with you again. It's you're a very inspirational person to talk to. And I've talked to a lot of salespeople who are extremely salesy, and it feels like you as a listener don't matter. I don't get that from you. You really do want to invest in people, and all these other things are extra to get you in front of people. But who you are as a person. You're just an amazing guy. So I just love having you on my screen, and I really appreciate having time with you.
Thank you, man. That's one of the biggest compliments I can receive, because that is my goal, is to be authentic and help others. I'm redoing my site a little bit now, and I hired someone, and she said, send me sites you don't like. And what you just said was the reasoning that came out that she pieced together. This feels too salesy. This is too much about that person. And she pointed that out, that was why I didn't like certain sites. So that's a huge compliment he gave me. Thank you very much. And this is a great way to start my day of all the other podcasts. Now I have more energy for the rest of the shows.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And I love your little idea again, going back to the audiobook and having all your friends there with you in that little booth. It's very smart. Thank you. Now when I listen to it, I'm going to be smiling knowing that's how you did that. So thank you for taking us behind the scenes, Adrian. That's really great.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having me, man. This is always a fun conversation with you.
Excellent. Okay. And remember, everyone, go over to his website, lifestyle-rei.com/next chapter, and you can get the 14 myths debunked for mobile home investing. Go over there and support Adrian. He's a great guy. Grab his book, get the audiobook, leave an amazing review, and we'll all go have margaritas and a spaghetti wrestling party together real soon. Thank you, Adrian.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for checking out the latest episode of Living the Next Chapter. I'm so happy to bring on these amazing authors and to share their stories, but I do have to confess I have a problem. And people who know me best would say, Dave, you have more than one problem. My problem is I have more episodes than I can release to you through my audio host, but I have a solution for you. Oh, yes. Head over to our YouTube channel. Subscribe today to our YouTube channel, and you can get the most recent episode. I'm posting this episode today that I recorded today, and you can get it now on YouTube. Jump the line, move right past that big burly guy at the door. You can get right in and get the most recent episode of Living the Next Chapter on our YouTube channel. Make sure you go there. livingthenextchapter.com has all the information. And again, I want to thank you for making this podcast such a great joy to create. Catch you on the next one.